I am going to give myself a UTI from how much work and figuring out it took to fucking set this shit up. We're good. And we're rolling. We have ourselves a random blue drink. We have a lovely chia seed pudding with some strawberry. I don't want all this in my space. Can you guys even tell that this light is on? Yes, you can. That looks dope. That looks sick. We got ourselves a nice salad. Ooh la la. It's got spicy chickpeas and some other stuff. But what I'm gonna do is transfer it to a nice bowl, which I have right here, so that we can make it pretty and start eating it while we try not to gag during a react to Pearl Davis, who, if you don't know who it is, Pearl Davis featuring me in a video about women with herpes and how mid and slutty we are.
You know what? The average I've seen from the women in the comments and the women on screen, I would say is 4 to 6.
I haven't watched the whole thing. I know that I'm towards the end of it, but as your herpes, one of your herpes fairy godmothers on the internet, TikTok, other social media, you can find me on as Sue's Bub. It is my duty to assemble on behalf of my other herpes fairy godmothers, godfathers, god-theys, and protect our legacy of defeating the stigma around herpes from villains like Pearl Davis.
If you're not familiar with her, be glad, because you're better off. However, for context, let me give you a couple clips of some things she said.
I'm an average chick. Most women are average. And the truth of the matter is, at 35, your odds of getting married as a chick is like 15%.
Before 1970, men could expect for the most part that their wife was going to be a virgin on their wedding day. And from 1970 to 2010, the number of women that were virgins on their wedding night dropped to 5%.
People that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in, for better or for worse.
Many women were not raised to be wives or told what a wife is. And there are many men across this country paying the price.
I'm not the biggest fan of female politicians. I think generally we're too emotional.
Yeah.
I fear the day we have a woman president in the U.S. I fear that day.
Okay? Who, at the end of the day, is probably just a scared girl who doesn't know much about herpes. Case in point, she doesn't know what asymptomatic means. I would probably look up some basic information about herpes before making a full video about the subject. Let's just get right into it, you know? It's gonna be fun. The video is called STDs at an all-time high, and some women don't even care, and even care is emphasized with all caps. Okay, so I believe this is a green goddess dressing. This is a conundrum. The video is 28 minutes long. Let's start.
Modern women talk about sexual liberation and being able to have the same sexual experience as a man. The only problem is that women are at a much greater risk of contracting an STI than men. One of the most common STIs on the...
Okay, I want to say something here right off the bat. First of all, if you're not already familiar with who Pearl Davis is, like, she's one of those, like, trolling, grifting online personalities who likes to talk about what women should and shouldn't do with their bodies, with their livelihoods, with their rights. From my exposure to her through just like coming across her in different videos and stuff against my will, I've seen her say things like women shouldn't vote, women need to be like under 25 and virginal in order to be proper. I can't even say this stuff, like, seriously. In order to attract men, right? I don't even know where she stands on like queer people, queerness. I myself am not straight, so I'm not sure how she'd feel about me having herpes, not being straight, and being 40 years old and a divorcee. I feel like I've broken every rule in her book, and yet I have a boyfriend. She's 28, okay? That's my biggest flex right now is I'm 40, she's 28. I won't shame a woman unless she shames me. First of all, the whole thing like modern women is just like, that's like already making me gag. Anytime I hear someone say modern women, I'm just like, I do, however, love this salad. So we're gonna put some of this guacamole on here. And, oh, it's not ginger. It's like pickled, it's like cabbage. Okay, so something important that I want to touch on that she's already said here that is actually a true point is that women are more susceptible to STIs and other infections because of our anatomy. And she said something about, in relation to men here, what was it again?
The risk of contracting it as a man. Talk about sexual liberation and being able to have the same
Oh, right. So she's against sexual liberation, first of all. Not a surprise.
sexual experience as a man. The only problem is that women are at a much greater risk of...
So she's saying we want sexual liberation and the same experience as a man, but we're more susceptible to STIs. So is she saying that we shall remain virginal because we may contract an STI more so than a man would, but we're not going to worry about the men and their behavior and how they got the STIs that we later get, right? In her world, in her context where it's straight couples only, STIs seem to be attributed to gender and behavior versus like just a human thing that happens.
Contracting an STI than men. One of the most common STIs on the rise when it comes to modern women is, you guessed it, herpes.
Okay, the way she framed this from the start, one of the most common STIs on the rise affecting modern women, she's already siloing herpes to be an affliction of the modern woman, not the man, the modern woman. Rather than it being a human infection that has actually been around for millions of years. Certainly it is on the rise, but not just because of women being slutty, as Pearl likes to say. With a growing global population, it's always going to be on the rise because it's always followed us as humans since way before we existed. Another reason why herpes has gotten a lot more popular in terms of like our general knowledge of it and awareness and lexicon is because we are talking about it more, monitoring it more, diagnosing it more. Herpes wasn't really acknowledged until I believe the 60s, 70s. Of course, we knew that it was a common affliction of the mouth and the lips. We also knew that it was a genital affliction, but doctors didn't really differentiate between HSV1 or 2 until a certain point in time. But herpes was known to just be a virus that causes blisters, and that was that. People weren't typically diagnosed formally. And once we started to be aware of HSV2, which again has also been around for millions of years, and understood that there were two separate strains of herpes, it wasn't so much that HSV2 was and is always genital and HSV1 was and is always oral, but rather that HSV1 is actually also possible and common genitally. That might have been more taboo and less known or heard of back then because again, they weren't really differentiating between strains or looking at that, nor was there a lot of discourse or understanding about the fact that HSV1 can be genital as well. And the common route of transmission for genital HSV1 is oral sex, which is not a new thing by any means, okay? We may be engaging in it more today than we used to, but it's always been a thing in human sexuality. It's just been secret and taboo. And sure, maybe it's gained popularity in the sexual liberation of the last several decades that Pearl hates. And a huge reason why genital HSV1 is so common and overlooked and misunderstood is because people who have herpes orally tend to, not everyone, deny that it's herpes. They tend to not understand that it's herpes and works exactly like any other herpes, and that they can in fact transmit it to their partners genitally via oral sex. And what's more is there doesn't need to be an active outbreak for that to happen because sometimes asymptomatic shedding happens and it can transmit that way. Although asymptomatic shedding isn't super common or doesn't happen all the time, there are moments where there might not be a visible outbreak, but there's viral shedding and it can be enough to infect somebody at times. So someone without even a cold sore present could potentially give someone else herpes, whether it's on their mouth after kissing or genitally after performing oral. It doesn't matter what gender you are, and actually it doesn't even matter what you have down there because herpes is skin to skin. It transmits skin to skin. It's not an exclusively sexual or non-sexual thing. It just transmits from wherever it exists. People get herpes on their elbows, fingers, That's called herpetic whitlow when it's on your fingers. They call herpes that wrestlers commonly get, which is literally just the same thing. They just get it in different spots in their body through that bodily contact. Herpes gladiatorium, even though it's literally just also HSV1 or 2. Both strains can go anywhere. What matters is what nerve branch they take root in, and typically the preferred area is the jaw for oral and the bottom of the spine for genital. And again, oral or genital could be HSV1 or 2. Now, HSV2 tends to be more rare orally because it adapted to be more comfortable genitally. That's why people typically think genital herpes is always HSV2. But HSV1 has adapted to be comfortable in both places. The only upside to having HSV1 genitally is that typically on paper, it can cause less frequent flare-ups or more mild flare-ups, or sometimes no flare-ups at all. But most people who have herpes are asymptomatic, so most people aren't getting flare-ups. Only a small percentage are, which is something Pearl doesn't understand.
There are more than 500,000 new cases of people in the U.S. contracting genital herpes, with 61% of those cases being women. Officially, 1 in 5 women have genital herpes. So let's take a look at some of these women. My other question is, because we're going to predict.
What gets me is the fact that she thinks she's clever enough to do a cross-section of women with herpes to like come to conclusions about why more women have herpes, when she literally said it at the beginning of her video. It's because we're more susceptible due to our anatomy. Okay? So you understood the biological reason at the beginning of your video, yet you spent the entire time trying to find social and cultural reasons to trump that.
These are the women publicly saying they have herpes. What % of hot women have herpes? I have herpes.
What % of hot women have herpes? Like, why does that matter? Because, of course, the assumption is going to be that a large percentage of hot women have herpes because hot women have more options, therefore they sleep around more, therefore they contract the herpes, and they give these poor men herpes, right? Like, that's where she's going to go with it.
If I want to have unprotected sex, I have to tell them.
For the record, I am censoring the women featured in this video because they never gave their permission to be featured in this video.
I don't know how this is going to affect my dating life.
Yeah, and so I've interviewed people that have herpes. Okay, I've interviewed both men and women. And I think people should know out there, and this isn't good or bad. Or sorry, this isn't a good thing. But I can't change the way the world is. Most are not going to tell you.
I don't understand how she went from watching a video of someone who is emotionally upset over their herpes diagnosis at the very beginning of that journey, understandably, and she's now drawing a conclusion about how the way the world works is that most people don't tell you they have herpes. No. What you don't understand is asymptomatic spread. Okay, we're going to come back to that, but that's what you don't understand. Just like she thinks this cross-section of women who have herpes online is going to dictate exactly what kind of women have herpes overall, she's also basing her knowledge of the behavior around herpes and herpes disclosure based on the assholes, which I'm sure anyone in her circle can't be good, based on the people that she's interviewed, okay? Of course, the people in her world are probably the people that would never disclose it. I don't think she would disclose it. And so she's interviewing the kinds of people that watch her channel, okay, and that follow her, because I doubt she's interviewing people who, like me, who would never. And from there, she's drawing the conclusion that the way the world works is that people won't disclose herpes to you.
Look, I've interviewed some, I've interviewed men that have it, right? And out of the 3 that I interviewed, 2 said that they don't care. They don't.
What kind of men do you think are within her reach? She surrounds herself and has built an audience of men who have absolutely no respect for women or themselves. And then she's like surprised to hear that these two men that she's spoken to, don't disclose their herpes.
They don't use protection. They do not care. And if the girl chooses to not wear a condom, that's on her. That's how they feel. The one tells them, and he hasn't had sex in years. These are the choices. When people get this STD, their choice is to be sexless or to lie.
What? Wait, what? Our choices are to be sexless or to lie? Because three men that she interviewed in her world, two of them never disclosed and one of them has not had sex. Why do you think many men in her audience have never had sex? Because you can't have sex with herpes, clearly. Sarcasm. And so your other option is to lie about it. Isn't there an option where you can have sex and disclose?
And I'm just letting you guys know to be careful out there, because there's a lot of incentive to lie and do the wrong thing here. I'm not saying it's good.
There's a lot of incentive to lie and do the wrong thing here. Why? Exactly. She's associating someone getting herpes with, I don't know, being a bad person already, right?
It's bad, but it just is what it is.
I can't give birth vaginally.
First of all, this person who I connected with at the time is sharing an extremely raw moment of her first interaction with like herpes and what it means for her and etc. And in that state of like despair, we can sometimes like latch onto ideas that are more intense than they are in reality, or than they would function in reality, right? So the statement that like she can't give birth vaginally is completely not true. I'm sure she knows now. You absolutely can give birth to babies having herpes vaginally. In fact, the American Gynecology Association doesn't even mandate screening for herpes when people are pregnant. There's so much to say around why herpes screening isn't mandated, even in just regular STI screenings for anybody, which is also why this kind of content is crazy and hilarious, because we're not screened for herpes. Most of us don't know our status. Most of us are asymptomatic, so we're carrying herpes and transmitting it without knowing. So even most people that are pregnant will not learn whether they have herpes or not. It's not necessarily included in screenings that are done when someone becomes pregnant. If there is a flare-up in the vaginal canal or anywhere that the baby might come into contact with at the time of birth, a C-section can be performed, right? A C-section can even be opted for preventatively, but tons of people give birth vaginally without an issue, and the chance of actually transmitting herpes to a baby during delivery is very rare. If the parent contracts their herpes during the course of the pregnancy, that can be a bit risky, but there's ways to deal with that and manage that as well. It's actually quite safe if you, as the parent, the birthing parent, know that you have herpes, because typically you can like monitor yourself, and or they'll often put you on the antivirals in order to suppress flare-ups just in case during your last trimester and during the time of your delivery. But yes, you can give birth vaginally safely with herpes, absolutely. One of the most common ways that babies and children contract herpes anyways is from parents and relatives and friends, visitors, whoever, with oral herpes kissing them, not through being birthed vaginally. And there's so much, again, misinformation, delusion around cold sores being herpes, around that being a risk. A lot of people will kiss their kids with active flare-ups because they brush it off as just a cold sore and not herpes, when it is herpes. And herpes is not a serious thing. But for a newborn that hasn't yet developed an immune system in the first few months of their life, it can be risky, right? Just like any virus, you wouldn't go visit a baby or kiss a baby while you're sick with the flu. It's the same idea.
If I have an outbreak, I don't fucking know how I'm supposed to.
Okay, she did say that she can't give birth vaginally if she has an outbreak. But again, they will suppress your outbreak, and the chance that you'll actually have an outbreak during birth, being someone who has herpes already, is low.
Told my parents this. It's also just fucking painful.
Okay, now I'm confused. Why are you telling TikTok and not your parents?
and I'm gonna have these
Are you familiar with social media and like how people use social media or not?
outbreaks for the rest of my life.
It was 1983. I was 20 years old, and I had my first herpes outbreak. To this day, it was one of the most excruciatingly painful experiences I have ever had. All I could do was sit around in a beanbag chair with no underwear on, and when I peed, I'd have to pee through a cardboard.
Ugh, disgusting.
Calling like someone's like painful experience with herpes disgusting when that could very well be you is just like not fucking wise. Second, if you have a severe initial outbreak, and by severe I mean like you have a rash of blisters in that area, of course that's going to be painful because you have open wounds there, right? If you have tears or cuts there, that's going to hurt too. That very first outbreak can be painful because it's your body's first time dealing with the virus. People who have herpes orally typically had that initial outbreak where it was a few blisters, but they won't usually remember that because they were too young. When it comes to peeing, the reason that that can hurt is because you have your acidic urine hitting an open cut or wound. If you cut yourself shaving, it fucking hurts also to pee. And the thing is, after that initial flare-up, when your body has fought off, the virus for the first time, your recurring flare-ups are super dormant compared to that. You get like one blister. It depends what area it's in. If it's like in a spot where your urine's not going to touch it, then you're barely feeling anything. There's not much pain there. These are the kinds of things that people who want to shame and ostracize herpes and people with herpes focus on. They focus on like the wildest, most extreme cases, but instead of having some compassion and being like, damn, that would be rough, you're gonna say disgusting when like you could just as easily get it. But the thing is, Pearl thinks that like she's immune from stuff like this because she literally has zero prospects. So
Tube and dry myself with the hairdryer. It was so painful. And I was pregnant, so I was peeing a lot. Again, this was in the 1980s, and AIDS wasn't even a twinkle in.
AIDS is late stage HIV that people rarely get to these days. Second, going through a first time herpes outbreak while pregnant is a whole other experience. And third, if she was going through this in the fucking 80s, I don't even know if she had access to antivirals back then. So like she was going through that initial outbreak raw, okay?
Transmitted diseases, So it was like literally the worst STD that you could get.
Herpes is not considered the worst STD that you can get. It is from a stigmatized perspective. And a lot of people who get herpes carry a lot of stigma about it. They internalize that stigma and then they continue to express it, right?
That shit stays with you for life. There was so much stigma.
I forgot what % get it by 50. It's pretty high though.
Yeah. People in general, 90% of people will be exposed to herpes by age 50. That's because it's fucking common. And that's actually in reference to HSV1. Okay.
If you're in the dating market too long, you might get herpes. I won't lie to you guys.
Around.
It doesn't matter how long or short you're in the dating market, you can get herpes or you cannot get herpes. You don't even have to be in the dating market to get herpes. Like, are babies in the fucking dating market, Pearl?
Herpes.
And you know what else is interesting? They say that women are more likely to get it, but women are more likely to get it because women are fucking more.
Let me just go back to what she said at the start.
That women are at a much greater risk of contracting an STI than men.
I don't know if she meant that biologically. I don't know what she was trying to say with that women are at a greater risk, because like it's like she's taking that back later when she's saying it's because we fuck more.
Likely to get it because women are fucking more.
Like, where is that coming from? Like, what? I mean, that's just like more indication of this like red pill bullshit. That's crazy.
I'm sure it's like easier for women to get STDs too, but let's be honest about this.
That's what the reason is that it's easier for women to get STIs. Like, why aren't you talking about men getting STIs? Like, you're just like eliminating men out of the fucking equation. It's crazy.
Women are sleeping around more than men.
Yeah.
Based on what? I'm sorry, is this based on like her interviewing 3 women and then 2 of those 3 women have a high body count? So that's why she concludes that women sleep around more?
Because I had such a severe breakout, I couldn't go to work, and I trusted my boss when I gave him the information about why I was staying home, and he told everybody that I worked with. Everybody.
I mean, I feel for this person because that was really rough to go through during a very stigmatized time. And then your boss fucking tells everybody at work you're pregnant. Like, that is not a fun time.
And I worked with some old biddies who were extremely cruel and very uninformed and didn't want to use the same bathroom as me.
That's insane. And I could see Pearl doing that.
Also very concerned that I would not be able to have a vaginal birth. But when the time came and they cultured me while I was in labor, it was negative.
There you go.
I did end up having a C-section anyway because of other issues that were going on, but it had nothing to do with my herpes. In fact, I've never had a breakout impact any of the births of my 3 babies.
Beautiful.
What I can tell you is this. While it sucks, the first breakout is the worst, and they will improve over time. And a cyclovir is an amazing drug that we did not...
Yeah, and this is the thing. Men always bail us out of bad decisions. So now the women are getting STDs, the men cure them. Or essentially cure them, right?
What? What? Men created this drug to bail women out of their bad behavior? Like, men don't get herpes? Let me explain to you why a cis man's anatomy is less susceptible to infection and herpes. Because their skin is less penetrable, okay, than our skin. We literally have an opening, and the surface area of that mucosal tissue we have that is very easy to penetrate is much larger and covers a more vast area than a cis man's, which is covered by thicker skin. And there's only small areas of like vulnerable mucosal tissue that can be penetrated. But like to then assert that we have an antiviral because men are bailing us out. Actually, to that point, the herpes antiviral was invented by a woman. She literally invented acyclovir. There's Valtrex and acyclovir. Acyclovir was first. Valtrex is just like a derivative of it or like a other brand. Yeah, the herpes antiviral was invented by Gertrude Elion. It was invented by a fucking woman. Also, she has no idea like how this woman contracted herpes. She has not shared that part of her story. The herpes antiviral is optional. So like you don't need the antiviral to bail you out of a bad decision because your herpes can just go dormant on its own. But instead of her commenting on the fact that like, okay, like it's manageable, she's had 3 kids, she jumps to some like wild side point as soon as she hears the mention of an antiviral about how men had to develop this drug to bail us out, if I understood that correctly.
Getting STDs and then cure them, or essentially cure them, right? And I looked it up. You only have to legally tell people if you have HIV.
Actually, in some places, you don't have to legally disclose HIV if you're on the drug for it.
Herpes, you can just spread like a mother.
What she's referring to is that it's not criminally negligent to not disclose herpes, though it's unethical to not disclose it, because most people don't know that they have herpes, and we're not screened for herpes, right? So it would be very difficult and confusing to try to pinpoint who anyone got their herpes from. Now, people can and have been sued for not disclosing herpes, but again, it's very hard to prove the source of your herpes because of all the variables.
Unfortunately, guys, so be careful out there. I'm telling you, a lot of I know a different guy. He went on a date with a girl and she told him.
Isn't the lesson here so far that women should be careful if women are contracting it more? But of course, she thinks women are contracting it more because we sleep around.
And he basically told her, yeah, I can't date you. And because of him, he said, if you lied, like, we probably would have dated. Guess what she did with the next guy? She's engaged. He doesn't know. All the time.
What?
A lot of, I know a different guy. He went on a date with a girl and she told him. And he basically told her, yeah, I can't date.
Doesn't this immediately omit the idea that there's two options, sexless or lying? Because the girl didn't lie.
Date you. And because of him, he said, you know, if you lied, like, we probably would have dated. Guess what she did with the next guy? She's engaged.
What?
Dated.
What is she saying here? I don't understand. I need to, like, break this down because, like, her way of telling this is so convoluted.
I know a different guy. He went on a date with a girl.
Okay, so she knows a guy who went on a date with a girl.
And she told him.
She told him she has herpes, right?
And he basically told her, yeah, I can't date you.
So he rejected her on the basis of her having herpes.
And because of him, he said, you know, if you lied, like, we probably would have dated.
So, but he lied because he probably would have wanted to date her.
Guess what she did with the next guy? She's engaged.
And then she got engaged with a guy after him? Like, what is this? What is this proving? Like, she disclosed. He rejected her dishonestly because he said he actually would have dated her. And then she got engaged with the next guy. So is she saying he missed out?
Engaged. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. The fiance doesn't know because she disclosed to this guy. Am I getting this story right? Who doesn't know? And how would anyone know what the fiance knows or doesn't know? Like, I don't get it.
You could be in a relationship and not know.
Yeah, you can because people are asymptomatic.
It's disgusting out there. I didn't make this market. Do you know what I mean? And people call me a doomer. I'm like, well, the blue-eyed, blonde-haired college girls are catching literal herpes.
Now it's like only a blue-eyed blonde thing. I have green eyes, and I'm not in college. I got it when I was 34.
Back in those days, and it works that fast to clear it up. 40 years later, I rarely have a breakout, and when I do, it's nothing. It's just nothing.
That is the most common experience, okay? The very first flare-up, which only happens to a small percentage of people, can be rough, and then it's usually smooth sailing.
Herpes is really common. It's way more common than most people think.
Hell yeah.
I probably know more women who do have it than don't have it. You are not.
Oh, but that's gonna piss Pearl off because more women have it because we sleep around more.
A bad person just because you have herpes. And if you're worried about what your parents are going to think, don't tell them. It's not their business. The physical and emotional suffering that you're experiencing right now.
It's true that you don't need to tell your parents. So you only need to tell partners, theoretically. You don't need to tell anyone else in your life. You don't need to tell the whole world like I do. But you also can tell anyone you want in your life, including your parents, because it's not a big deal. And the onus is on you whether you make it a big deal or not.
Will it get better?
And this is the thing. We have this revenge fantasy. Like these decisions will catch up to.
This again is like, this woman was like making a really nice point. She was wrapping up her video and her story in a really inspiring way. And like, because there's nothing Pearl can say about that, she has to go to some wild side like argument that is just completely out of left field.
Suffering that you're experiencing.
See, these decisions will catch up to women. Revenge fantasy.
Right now, will it get better?
And this is the thing. We have this revenge fantasy.
Who has this revenge fantasy, Pearl?
These decisions will catch up to women.
These decisions will catch it. What decisions exactly? Because we don't know how this woman got herpes. So what decision is that she had intercourse? And did it not catch up to her because she's not suffering from long, frequent outbreaks for the rest of her life, or because she was able to give birth to 3 children? Like, because it's now a positive, non-intrusive thing for her, which is the case for most people with herpes. Like, what is the punishment that she deserves and why?
They don't. I'm telling you. This girl, right, that's crying here, some guy is still gonna do it.
have these outbreaks for the rest of my life.
It's just crazy to me how the victimization is on the men that she will date after, but not her, when she's the one that's like upset and like emotionally distraught over getting it herself. It's like, how did she get it? Why did she get it? Right? Like, and it's something that just happens, you know, for any sexually active or non-sexually active person. So just like creating this whole like story around it to serve this mandate about how men need to be afraid of women with herpes is just absolutely bonkers.
And she's going to turn into this girl
who is happily married, mother of 3 kids, and doesn't worry about herpes a day in her life now.
Married with kids.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? I'm sorry, like, we're supposed to suffer for the rest of your life in an eternal flame of hell? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
This woman had 3 kids with herpes. Someone did it. Let me see the comments on here. Newly diagnosed. Here, I'm learning to embrace it. I have so much anxiety every time I think about it. Thank you for the comforting information. Let's see what this girl looks like. Okay, she is not overly attractive.
What? I didn't think this could stoop any lower, but we're going into the comments and then rating the women's appearance. I'm in shock right now, like...
The woman was too stunned to speak.
And like this, I'm not showing these people that she's highlighting, but she's gorgeous. That's when you know it's just rage bait.
Oh, see, she's a mother. Let's see who else has it in the comments. Women really tell on themselves in the comments. Let's see, the pup named Dior.
God forbid you have a community online that like supports each other over something that is like, oh, my mirror's here. I told on myself, checking myself in the mirror. I hope this doesn't worry any of you in someone looking at your comments, looking at your profile and rating you, because the people who do this, her included, have absolutely no pleasure in themselves, in their life, to be doing this kind of thing. Or it's absolutely empty, soulless grifting for money, because there's just no way I could ever take seriously anyone that is like doing this and making this their thing. I'm gonna put it on like 1.5 speed. I can't handle this.
See this girl married. She said I forget I had it.
So she's dragging any of these women who have herpes for being married because like they're supposed to remain without a partner.
There you go. Yeah. They'll be fine. And
exactly, they will be fine. They will be fine, and we're fine.
A lot of people are like, oh, cope. No. I'm currently waiting on lab results, but currently having my first outbreak. You know what's crazy? The guys told me some of the women that they told they had it still slept with them.
That like, so like the women that are uneducated, understanding, and cool with the fact that the guy has herpes, they're the villain again for sleeping with. Like, the women who are married are the villain, right? Because they married a man. But the man isn't the villain for marrying the women who have herpes. But, like, the women who partner up and sleep with the men who have herpes are villains. It's like the women can do no right. Like, the women can do no right. And the men can do no wrong, right? In her convoluted, like, warped worldview of things, this is so forced. Like, it's so forced. It's unbelievable. And then you're faulting people who are educated and knowledgeable about herpes or who don't regard it as a big deal because it's not for taking partners who have it.
Told me some of the women that they told they had it still slept with them. I was like, okay, let's see. I just want to see how attractive.
So, like, to her, that's like proving her worldview that like women are slutty, not that they don't regard herpes as a big deal, because it's not.
Or that we that have it. So this is another one with it.
And also, like, it's making the assumption that, like, by sleeping with someone with herpes, you're signing on to get it, when the actual transmission rates, like, between couples where one is positive and one isn't, is between 3 and 10% in most of the studies they've done. So, like, the risk of getting herpes from someone that knows they have it is actually quite low. The reason herpes is so common is just because of, like, most people not knowing that they have it, not recognizing flare-ups, and also asymptomatic spread. So it actually has nothing to do with people being slutty, not disclosing. I would say a major cause of genital herpes is actually people with cold sores not recognizing it as herpes, failing to partake in the best practices so as not to transmit to their partners. Okay, because if we're going to spend so much time differentiating cold sores as not the same thing and not herpes, you're probably not disclosing it to your partners or thinking about it before you go down on your partner. 50% or more cases of genital herpes are HSV1.
Yeah, see, you would see her at a club, right? You would think she was cute. You probably all would. 6, I'd say. 6, yeah. Herpes, dude. She's in LA.
I have herpes.
Okay, let's see.
The rating and almost like doxing is absolutely bonkers.
Who else? Who else is in the comments?
This is crazy.
This girl said, I hope you're not going to lose sleep. My doctor said, I hope you're not going to lose sleep over this because it's so common.
This is crazy.
I'm seeing this mostly with some 6s. 5s, that's what I'm seeing. Let's see.
I have herpes.
Let's see who else is in these comments section. This girl, 10 years later, the first one was so hard, back-to-back outbreaks, but I barely notice it anymore. This is the look. And people...
This is what I mean, like, any positive discussion or discourse around herpes, she's going in with any, like, wild negative assumption or worldview that she can. In this case, there is no other reach than trying to rate these women. Rating any woman is gross. Like, I just, like, anyone doing that, like, stop. But, like, to have the audacity to, like, sit there with the way you look to rate these women, and then, like, to think that your rating holds any merit for yourself, your audience, or the women themselves, and then to rate them what you're actually rating is just, like, the biggest reach on the planet. Like, I said this in my TikTok before recording this video, but, like, this is the pick me final boss. It's just rage bait.
I mean, most of these women just look like normal. They don't look... Like, a lot of guys will say, oh, you can tell. Could you? Really? To anyone who...
No, you can't tell who has herpes because it has nothing to do with your fucking appearance. Like, what the fuck?
This feeling like this happens to me as well. I'm not married to a man who didn't care at all. There is much hope. I barely have outbreaks. Yeah, that's what I've seen in the people I interviewed. I guess it's really bad. It gets less bad over time. Your body learns to fight it.
There you go.
Oh, I have outbreaks, but mine happen on and around my lips. It's terrible.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm speeding this up more.
I came here.
There you go, fellas. All right, let's...
Why would you be able to tell? Also, she goes to a doc here that has, like, facts. 61% of those cases being women. Officially, 1 in 5 women in the U.S. have genital herpes. Let's take a look. Wow, okay, so she has, like, her little script. Modern women are giving up their kids. I don't know if that's, like, a topic for a future video.
All right, let's see who's got it next. You guys will be able to tell? Really? You can tell the difference?
Again, I'm not going to show any of the advocates featured in this because they were featured against their will.
You guys will be able to tell? Really? You can tell the difference?
You can't tell who has herpes or not, but the way that she's presenting this is like men are being, like, intentionally fooled. Like, we're all playing this master game of, like, let's hide who has herpes and who doesn't.
That's why I was in a space, and there was a guy in the space talking about how he dated a woman who they were about to hook up, and she told him. And there's another girl in the space, well, you just date thoughts, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, like, you could, like, I like to show the faces, because you're not going to know. Does this woman, you'd be able to tell? Really?
I have herpes. I have herpes. You heard me right. And I'm simply done allowing that statement to cultivate shame for me anymore.
I'm trying to understand what she means by, like, you're not going to know by looking at this woman. Like, I don't understand what her conclusion is here. Or, like, her point that she's trying to make. That, like, really hot women won't have herpes, and, like, the women she thinks are mid do, and that, like, the men won't be able to tell with the mid women. I don't understand.
I'm done. I contracted herpes when I was 19 years old. I am 28. And I spent almost 10 years carrying around this heavy load of shame surrounding the fact that I have.
I remember this video, and this video was fantastic, and it like gave so many people hope and inspiration. And it's always amazing when people do decide to talk publicly about having it and do their own part in breaking the stigma. Like, nobody has to do it, but this was a great video and it went like really viral.
Have HSV.
No pun intended.
I contracted herpes from a man that I trusted. I thought we were dating. Obviously, my standards were very low back then, and I had.
She's saying she contracted herpes from a man that she trusted, but like, I don't think this matters to Pearl. Like, again, I guarantee she's gonna find like every way possible to villainize and demonize like the woman in the story.
And asked him,
wear a condom always, even with your boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm telling you.
You can get herpes with a condom because, like, depending on where it is on your body, a condom may be irrelevant. If you have it on your lower stomach, a condom's not going to do much. If you have it on your lower back or your butt, a condom's not going to do much. So people can still contract herpes with a condom because it's transmitted skin to skin. If somebody has it on their elbow, condom doesn't fucking matter. And if you engage in oral, which most people don't use barriers for, that is a very common way to contract herpes also. Now, you can choose to like be celibate for the rest of your life and avoid getting herpes. Be my guest. If that's what she's inspiring the type of men who watch her content to do, then she is merely doing us a favor. But even if you're celibate for your whole entire life, you can still contract herpes because unless you are never coming into skin-to-skin contact with anybody for your entire life since you were born, which you can't guarantee not having had contact with anyone since you were born, especially up until the age of 5, where you likely don't remember, and you were probably handled by some human at some point or kissed at some point, you absolutely cannot avoid herpes as a human being, which is why by age 50, the majority of humans have been exposed to herpes, and that is largely HSV1, but can also be HSV2.
You guys, I'm telling you, well, it's a calculated risk, right? I'm not going to say do or don't. It's your sex lives. But if you're living together, okay, you're kind of more guaranteed. But out of the 3 that I interviewed that had it, 1 got it with a condom.
Okay, so she knows that, but she's saying wear a condom, but she's also saying do what you want. And she's also basing her entire, like, research and, like, statement on herpes on 3 people that she's spoken to that have it.
It's something that can happen to anybody. And you can see that with the
Yes, it is something that can happen to anybody, and she's literally saying you can't tell who it can happen to, but then she like jumps around to draw these conclusions about how it's women who are sleeping around or being slutty, or like it's presumably bad people who wouldn't disclose now that they have it.
Women that I'm showing on here, the guys that I interviewed with it, 3 different races. I wouldn't have known. The women that I interviewed, most of, because men are more honest, so I found more men.
Men are more honest, like that's just based on nothing.
It's interesting. There's more women talking about this on the internet. But when
Men are, so if she believes men are more honest, but there's more women talking about this on the internet, when she earlier said that women are likely not going to disclose, like she's all over the fucking place, which is why I feel like she's absolutely full of shit and grifting, because she can't even keep her points like straight. Like, what do you believe? You know, like, is there a certain type of woman that gets herpes, or is it anybody? Because you're trying to make a case by showing what women have herpes and rating them. Are women getting herpes because they're more susceptible due to their anatomy, or because they're sleeping around more? Because you said both and tried to validate both. You're telling people to wear condoms, but you're also saying that you can get it with a condom, and you're also telling them that they can do whatever they want, but you're also telling people that they're crazy and villains for sleeping with and being with people who have herpes. And then you're saying that men tend to be more honest, but there's more women on the internet openly and honestly discussing having herpes. So again, like, what is your worldview here?
it's interesting. There's more women talking about this on the internet. But when I was trying to find people like personally to interview, or like just on Twitter telling them to call, whatever, I found more men willing to talk about it.
Yeah, because most of your audience is male, and they're typically men who hate women, who would never disclose their herpes, let alone talk about it on your fucking show. Because you're also sitting here and telling people not to sleep with people who have herpes, or presenting people with herpes as like some crazy scary thing. Who the fuck is going to come on your show to talk about having herpes?
If he had been tested, but I never verified any test results. And I want to also add that while I take accountability for the fact that I should have verified the test results, at 19 years old I was extremely...
I just want to say to this video, like, I might have brought these points up at the time because I think I stitched her video at the time. It's not your fault because you didn't verify test results. Herpes isn't in routine STI screening, so even if you requested to see somebody's results, herpes wouldn't be on there. You would see other common STIs that they check for, but herpes isn't on there. So there's no way that you could have verified whether someone had herpes or not and prevented yourself from contracting it. And also, the majority of humans have HSV1, so you would be like rejecting someone on the basis of having HSV1, which could be oral but could also be genital, when you probably have it too, because most humans do. It's like 67%, but experts say it's closer to 80 or 90% globally.
Christian household where I received zero sex education. The extent of
Blah, blah, blah. The internet is available. We all, like, can we...
Yeah, the internet is available, so why don't you know what asymptomatic means when you just did a whole episode on herpes?
I think sex ed is weird for adults to be teaching children. But at some point, you gotta be accountable. The internet's available. You can Google this stuff.
I don't know at what age she thinks people should receive sex ed, but like it should be from a pretty young age so people start to understand and get prepared for what, you know, they're going to encounter in their life. If the internet is so accessible and so easy to learn from, then why aren't you educated enough? Why don't you know that herpes isn't in routine screenings? Because all you have to do is look up, is herpes in routine STI screenings? And also any article that you'll read about herpes and herpes stigma after Googling herpes will likely reference the fact that it's not in screenings. Also, eventually when you get screened regularly, you might figure out or learn that herpes isn't in routine STI screenings.
that I received was one time my mom sitting me down and saying, "Hey Lana, we need to talk about the birds and the bees." And I got really embarrassed and I was like, "Oh, I already know." And she said, "Okay," and walked out of the room. That was it. I was pulled from sex ed in school, so my education surrounding sexual health was extremely limited. And also the way that I viewed myself in relation to men at that point was already very skewed, so I didn't question him at all when he said, "Yeah, I'm tested and I'm clean." Finding out that I had herpes was easily one of the most devastating days of my entire life. I can't even explain the feeling of defeat and helplessness that you feel when you know that you have a virus that is going to impact the rest of your life and the way that you engage with men. For so long, it really made me feel like I wasn't even worthy and I couldn't attract a quality partner.
I do want to point out that, like, when people first start talking about herpes or are initially diagnosed with herpes, there's a lot of stigmatized concepts and beliefs that we carry, that we've internalized, that we have to unpack and unlearn. What this person is doing is kind of sharing those beliefs, or like what impacted them at the start, like her at the start of her diagnosis. But like, you unlearn those things as you learn more about herpes and the stigma. I don't agree with every point that everyone with herpes makes on the internet. We're all different people at the end of the day. We're all informed by different cultural backgrounds, different beliefs, different ideas, different practices. I never would have blamed myself, even if I was enjoying my sex life and having multiple partners, for getting herpes. I got my herpes in a relationship and I wasn't disclosed to, I was lied to. But even if I was like just enjoying multiple partners and enjoying myself sexually, I would still not blame myself for getting herpes. Maybe I would with the internalized concept that like it's my fault no matter what, which a lot of people try to push on you. But especially after learning that it's not in routine STI screenings, like how in the world are you supposed to prevent it? And learning that the majority of people have HSV1. So if you're not going to get HSV2, you're most likely going to get HSV1. And if you're not going to start out with it on your mouth, you're eventually going to get it below, because most people around you have it on their mouth. So unless you never receive oral and you never enjoy yourself in life, yes, you might be taking a risk for herpes, but it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes your dating pool market way down, unless you lie.
So again, this like is such a toxic idea, because like it doesn't take your dating pool way down, and the fact that you are then left with the only option to lie is probably a route that people who lie take. Most people would be honest and open about that, or should be. I don't know.
And that's why I try to really emphasize, I really try to stress that, because I'm telling you guys, people with it, their choice is to tell this very personal information on like a first or second date.
When you are going to be intimate with someone, generally, you probably touch on personal information, such as what you like to do in bed, what you enjoy, when you were last tested, what you were tested for. And if you were positive for anything, that's part of the conversation. Like, it's not this like crazy taboo thing that you're not supposed to talk about. All of a sudden, you're going to talk about your STI status, but a lot of educated, informed people are talking about their status and testing etiquette anyways, whether they have an STI or not. A lot of these people, I feel like, have a very infantile approach to sex and sexuality, And it's probably because you are barring young people from being educated about sex. And then you yourself grew up without that education, and you are peddling these childish, infantile ideas as an adult.
Right? Or their choice is to lie. Most of them lie. I had a different friend.
Most of who lie? Like the 2 and 3 men out of your pool of people that watch you that you interviewed. Most women, when you also said that like you're only and mostly finding women online openly discussing it.
I went on a date with a girl who told him second date. And he was kind of mean to her, right? I mean, he was like, oh, that's disgusting. And I told him, I'm like, look, you are lucky she was honest. You are lucky that she was honest, because most of them lie. You got very, very, I mean, he was probably fine, but I can understand his reaction. It is gross. But
again, like, even just calling it gross, it's like, are you a fucking child? Like, have you never had a skin ailment in your life? I would rather be covered in 100 blisters than live as 1 second as gross a human being as it would require me to be to act like this.
I'm telling you, I've done these interviews, they're lying. A lot of them.
So much seeking accept.
Yeah, like the people in your world, the people in your circle, the very few people that have been willing to talk to you, again, which is a certain caliber of a person, are lying. Like, what does that tell you?
That I would literally date any man that would accept me as soon as I had, told him that I had the virus.
That's a statement on like how much it can, like, the stigma around it can erode your confidence to a point where you don't see your worth anymore, and you would settle for anyone that's willing to, because that's like the worldview that you adopt, that nobody should be with you or sleep with you with herpes, because it's this big, bad, scary thing that like only you and like a small portion of people have, which couldn't be further from the truth. So the people that are willing to be with you, it no longer matters who they are or whether they're meeting any of your standards or what you want for yourself or your life. You'll date them because you just want that like affection, validation, and acceptance. There's nothing wrong with that and being on that journey, but like eventually, ideally, we find a place where we find our worth again and realize that that is so heavily driven by these stigmatized concepts and ideas that people like Pearl and her audience are pushing.
Okay, the only person that knew outside the men that I slept with was my sister.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. These people with it, they have to run the risk that you're going to tell other people. And most of them, I mean, my friend told me about his date. So now their reputation's on the line.
Everyone in my world knows that I have herpes, and it's changed nothing in my life. If anything, it's added to my life.
What's the incentive? I don't try to do right or wrong. I try to say, what's the incentive here? Now, there's an incentive for these women to go on the internet because they get attention, they get to not feel alone, and they can build a herpes brand. So
yeah, because it's so wrong to build a community. It's so wrong to build a community around something that you and other people can relate to. Isn't that what you're doing? Do you not have an incentive to be online and talk your fucking nonsense and bullshit to this audience that you have garnered, that you are actually catering to, potentially, hopefully, falsely, because like I can't believe that this is a real person. Whereas we're honestly, openly speaking about our own experience with something and how we overcame it in the face of the social stigma that we're surrounded by.
And the partners that I chose post,
which is baseless, okay, and also influenced heavily by the lack of sex education, discourse, and open conversation about something that is truly not a big deal in the majority of cases.
Herpes diagnoses were very low caliber, very low quality. My sense of self-worth had dropped so low because of the fact that I had herpes. It was already low to begin with.
And also our sense of self-worth can be super low with or without herpes. She's talking about how the stigma around herpes affected her self-worth. If you yourself know that you're letting people into your space who don't deserve it, that's a commentary on your sense of self-worth. It has nothing to do with anything else.
Let me be clear. But contracting herpes...
And that sense of self-worth happens to be impacted by herpes because of how stigmatized it is.
Made it substantially worse. And the partners I then dated throughout my 20s, rock bottom. My standards were in hell. And I recently have been going through a big journey of really just trying to take ownership of anything that brings me shame. And this is one thing that I knew I couldn't avoid talking about. I truly thought that I would take this information to my grave. I hid this so deeply from my friends that even when I would travel with girlfriends, I would put the medication in a separate bottle because I didn't want anyone.
And like, I know Pearl is going to make this like something about, you know, our own shame around like having gotten herpes because of our own bad behavior or whatever. The reason that there is so much shame around having herpes, then we would go to such lengths, some of us, to prevent our friends or own family from finding out, or like why we would hide our medication bottle, which is optional, because I know people love to like say like you have to be on medication for the rest of your life, is because of the shame society puts on it, okay? Unreasonably, and due to Puritan ideas about sex and sexuality, due to sexist, misogynistic ideas about being a woman and sexual liberation, women have been blamed for herpes and STIs for a very long time. There was a Times Magazine article feature in the 80s called The Scarlet Letter that was about the sexual revolution that had been in years past, right, with the 70s and all that stuff, and how this explosion, okay, of herpes, which like it's been around forever, was attributed to people, but mostly women, because they were focusing mostly on women, sleeping around. So like none of this is new. There's always been sexist ideas about women being responsible for STIs when we're simply more susceptible to infection. It's just like senseless to blame it on a gender. It has nothing to do with gender, okay? The only thing that you can blame it on is anatomy, and also the transmission route being skin to skin. Why aren't we talking about wrestlers getting herpes gladiatorium? Why aren't you talking about all the people who have herpes orally?
Anybody to see the antibodies, like.
But it's just crazy to sit there and like take a person's shame over having herpes, turn it into something that it's like brought on themselves by their shameful behavior, when you're the one contributing to the shame that they're feeling unreasonably.
Medication bottle in my bag. But I just ain't doing that anymore. I have herpes. It's a part of who I am. It does not change my value, my worth.
It does significantly, actually, in the dating market.
It does significantly in the dating marketplace of Pearl's worldview, which is warped as fuck.
I'm not saying you're not a nice person, but in the dating marketplace, much lower. Much lower.
It is simply a virus that...
Oh my God. What about all these women that she looked at that have partners and kids and families, like...
Body, it's very dormant. I haven't had an outbreak in years. Really, the only way it impacts my life now is the fact that I have to tell partners, I have to disclose it. And I recently started dating somebody new, and I realized I'm still getting tripped up having the disclosure conversation. So I decided I'm just going to take ownership of it. I released a podcast episode telling the whole world that I have herpes, and now I'm here telling you, if you have herpes, you are not alone. You are not less worthy.
You are, but I mean, let's see.
You are, but you are. It's like when you're having an argument as a kid, and you're just like, no, you're stupid. No, your worth is low. In my pearly world, your worth is so low.
I met a girl, and on her second date, she told me she had it. I was able to make a choice, and now she's my wife, and I have 2 beautiful children. What an L.
That sounds like a fucking win to me. What an L. Is that what you just said?
What an L.
This person has found his wife and has 2 beautiful children, and that's an L. Like, the reach is unbelievable.
I was diagnosed today, and I cried for...
When she just said that people with herpes have low value and are undateable. So she's, again, seeing things that oppose her worldview and is trying to like trash them in another way, in any other way she can think of, right? She has to say that it's an L when it's like literally the win that she's promoting to her audience. Like, isn't she promoting getting married and having a family and staying together and not divorcing? There you go.
For hours. Okay, well, the first girl just isn't for me. She's and I see her toes and throw a gang sign.
And then she's gonna go to that person's account and like judge what kind of person they are.
Let's see who else is in this comments section.
It's crazy.
It's so funny. It says, I've been getting cold sores and fever blisters since I was 9. I was told I got it as an infant, and I was most likely kissed by someone infected. So that's like HSV1.
Okay, I'm excited for this bullshit.
The cold sores in the mouth, that's way more common. And they blame it on someone kissing the kid, but it's more likely that the mother had it. But we're not having that conversation.
What? Is she trying to say that like the woman gave it to her child through birth or like genetically? Because that's not true. Couldn't the father have had it? Like, does the father not kiss his kid? Also, of course, she's gonna say that HSV1 is a different story and has missed in her research that half or more cases of genital herpes are actually from HSV1.
Who else has it? I went out with a girl that had it for years. When it was active, she'd say we'd have different fun. I never even got it after I got tested. Wow. Actually, that is the people I interviewed. The guy said a lot of the girls that they hooked up with didn't get it, or they never, like, one guy gave me his stats. He said he hooked up with 100 women, no protection, did not care, no medication. I'm telling you, these guys are demons.
These guys are demons. Didn't she say that, like, the women are the ones doing this? Hold on. I mean, that just went against her whole point that, like, it's the women you have to watch out for. So now we're saying that anyone with herpes is a demon, except all these people that are, like, happily married with children and just living their life. Like, are they also demons? Like, I can't keep up with you, Pearl. Like, I can't keep up with, like, the way you look at the world. Your pearly world. It makes no sense.
And he said maybe 4 girls got it out of 100.
How would he know that? How would he know that? Like, does he follow up? Is he running like a research study and tracking and following up with these 100 women that he's been with? This person sounds like a fucking horrible person, because like knowing you have any STI and hooking up with people without disclosing, let alone not using protection, is absolutely wrong and wild. But like, he's not running a fucking research study and like able to say how many people he gave it to.
Now, I don't know if maybe some got it and didn't tell him they're sleeping with multiple guys.
If some got it and didn't tell him they're sleeping with multiple guys, do you see how she always has to villainize the women? Like, not because like he wasn't accessible, or maybe they felt too much shame to discuss it, or because they lost contact with him, but because they were sleeping with multiple guys and couldn't figure out their source. You're generally not going to know who you got your herpes from, because most people are asymptomatic or it can lay dormant before it pops up. It's very difficult to know. So most people just attribute it to the last person they were with, which isn't always the person that you got it from. Many times it's not. You can't really know. It's really hard to know. Sometimes you're lucky to know, and there's, you know, signs or like indications that it was that person, but a lot of times you don't know. The same goes for being in a long-term committed relationship. Like, your partner could have it be asymptomatic this whole time. You could have it be asymptomatic this whole time. Give it to your partner. You're not going to know because we're not screened for it.
You guys' experience in the comments. My story's identical to yours. I also got it at 19. Let's see these pictures on this one. Oh, I don't see any. Yeah, I'm 50 years old and contracted it from my husband. He knew he had it before we married and never told me. 2 years later, I found out he had it.
I mean, that's crazy, but yeah.
Guys, I'm telling you, be careful.
But guys, I'm telling you what? You're telling the guys to be careful of the women out there, but now we're talking about the men again?
There. I have HSV too, and I'm still dealing with it. It's from a man I trusted and loved, and of course, yeah, I know. So this is what she looks like.
It's just crazy to be like rating these women. What is wrong with you?
Tell me if you guys.
How do you live with yourself acting like this? Like, how do you sleep at night? I can't think of anything more embarrassing to be doing on the internet than that. And I'm a herpes advocate. I talk about having herpes. Anyone would think that I'm doing the most embarrassing thing you could do on the internet. But I don't think there's anything more embarrassing than, especially as a woman, rating women on the internet to prove some point, because you can't prove the actual points that you're arguing.
I think you could tell with these women. I don't think I would be able to guess. Here's another one.
And like, why are you still trying to like guess what women do and don't have herpes on the basis of their appearance? Like, do you have no basic scientific knowledge or biological knowledge? You can't tell what physical ailment anybody has unless it's symptomatic. Do people who look a certain way get like different diseases and afflictions? No. My God.
Personally, I have HSV1 and 2, and let me just tell you, it's nothing to be ashamed of.
It's extremely common to have HSV1 and 2 because almost everyone on Earth has HSV1.
Really important that you educate yourself around it so that having these conversations make it a little bit easier. Also, with practice takes time.
I love this person. Again, I'm not showing who everyone is, but she's amazing.
Ways that I disclose is, number one, having it immediately in my bio. Keep my
queen.
HSV1 and 2.
I'm really curious to see what she's going to say about this person, because she's gorgeous. She's up front. She's owning it. She's fucking educated. She knows her shit. That is a partner that anyone should feel safe with, because you know what's going on. That is so much more trustworthy over the like person that like sits there telling you like, I got tested recently and I'm clean. Anyone using the word clean, even, like, I know a lot of people use it due to like a lack of education. Like, there's nothing clean or dirty about STIs or not having STIs. It's positive or negative, okay? But someone being like, I'm clean. I would know if I had something. I got tested and I'm clean. I don't have that shit. You can trust me. Versus someone like this. who's upfront, who's educated, who knows how it works, who knows how to reduce transmission, you're more likely to get it from someone that doesn't know. Most people get it from people that don't know. So we're risking it anyways. And again, unless you're celibate for your whole life and you never make skin-to-skin contact with anyone, from the day you were born, you are risking herpes, okay? You have to be in a plastic bubble to avoid herpes. So what is she gonna say about her?
Yeah, so now she can make a job off of herpes. That's the incentive to talk about it on the internet.
So then we're going to capitalizing on having herpes. I don't think there's anything wrong with like services and offerings out there that you like take payment for, because it still takes work and time and energy. But I don't know many people that are able to make a full-time career out of having and talking about herpes. Like, there isn't an incentive to talk about herpes online in order to make money, because it's not an established thing that you're gonna make money talking about herpes. Being an influencer, period, there might be an incentive to be an influencer on social media, because if you have enough content that gets views and consistent attention, then you might make some money off of that. But we're talking like you have to be in the fucking upper echelons of like influencerdom to actually make enough money to live off of that full time and more. But like, I don't know many herpes advocates who are able to do this full time. Most people that I know do this on the side. And outside of the US or like select countries, you don't even have a creator fund. In Canada, you don't have a creator fund. I haven't made a cent off of a single video that I've made about herpes. I can't even get on the partnership program on YouTube because I don't have enough views or traction there. And even if I did find a way to make a living off having herpes, it would be because it's work that I'm passionate about and that I love to do and that I want to continue to help and inspire people in this community.
Internet, TikTok into being worshipped and nothing less. HSV 1 and 2. Have you guys seen this on the dating apps? Because I mean, what you gotta put yourself in their shoes, right? What are they gonna do? They're either gonna lie, that's probably the most common. Two, just put it on the dating app so they don't have to have an awkward conversation. Or
so like she's adding in a third variable now, because we're either sexless or we lie or we put ourselves on a dating app to avoid the awkward conversation. You're still gonna have the conversation. Like, do you think because it's on the dating app you're not going to talk about it? And also, why is it an awkward conversation to discuss your sexual health? Like, that's a great thing to do as a sexually active adult. And you would know that if you had any sex education and supported sex education for people.
What I've heard is they might hook up with someone once and then tell them. Throat goat it, then tell them.
What? What? Heard from who? The 3 people that you interviewed? Throat goat it and then tell them. It's not on your mouth. You're absolutely able to throat goat someone. Like, if you want to throat goat and then disclose your herpes, you can, because it's not on your mouth if you have it genitally. Most people have it orally, so if you're gonna like engage in oral and receive oral from any human on earth, you're risking getting it genitally all the time. If you, as someone who has it genitally, performs oral on someone before you tell them, they haven't actually taken on any risk.
Brutal, man.
Bumble bio here. My Tinder bio, same thing. And this is my field.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe in like disclosing to partners before engaging in any sexual intimacy, because I just think that's the ethical thing to do. But like, if you're engaging in intimacy that doesn't pose any risk, technically you haven't put them at any risk.
Dinner dates, late night chats, into mindful, blah, blah, blah. If you call me a good girl, it's game over. I'm a sex educator with a very public following, but I like to keep my personal life private for now.
So she's reading her dating profile from an app that it's like a sex positive app where you can like have sexual experiences, but also people on there look for relationships. Of course, she's going to be more explicit on that profile because that's catering to like the community on that app. But I don't think Pearl understands this because she's not a sexually liberated woman.
Oh.
Clearly.
HSV 1 and 2.
A bit more descriptive, if you catch my drift. I usually have a conversation once I've matched with someone. Usually this conversation is about our interests, our desires, and also sexual health. I either do this on app or...
And I think that's amazing. That's what I was saying before. When you're intimate with partners, of course you're going to have intimate conversations, not just about your sexual health, but also about your preferences, your likes and wants, what you're looking for out of the connection, whether you're looking to date, whether you're looking for something casual. And there's nothing wrong with anything as long as you communicate.
Or once we switch to texting, before we meet up in person. Because I personally don't want to waste my time with someone who doesn't want to be with me because of my herpes status. And this is an example of a recent text exchange.
Okay.
And there is no timeline with which you have to disclose before you actually take a risk with somebody. Like, it's totally up to you. You can go on a date to feel somebody out first. Some people do choose to say it early on because they kind of want to weed out anyone that might be uncomfortable with it. And some people want to like get to know somebody or feel their energy out first and maybe talk about it in person and have the conversation in person and go through it that way. So like everyone can kind of choose their timing and method and medium with disclosing. There's no right or wrong way.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I have HSV 1 and 2. I take Valtrex every day though, and I've never transmitted it to a partner, just for aware. Let me know if you have any questions. Hey, I totally get it.
That's a beautiful combo.
Sounds like you have just moved over after the lockdowns ended. Oh, and as long as you've got it under control, that's cool with me.
Love that answer.
We have this revenge fantasy. Somebody's gonna do it, guys.
We have this revenge fantasy. Somebody's gonna do it, guys. Sometimes I feel stupid listening to this because I'm like, am I missing something? Am I missing something? Like, I don't understand. What's the revenge fantasy? Who has the revenge fantasy? Is it the guy sleeping with the girl that has herpes because he wants to then get herpes? Is the revenge fantasy the girl sleeping with guys who don't?
All these porn stars getting married, a lot of them have herpes.
Now there's another layer to this. So like there's a revenge fantasy. Somebody's gonna do it. All these porn stars getting married. Is she calling her a porn star? So is she saying the revenge fantasy is that when you have herpes, you're gonna become a porn star so you can sleep with other men who and then give them herpes? But when you're in the porn industry, you're generally testing yourself and your co-stars. I mean, herpes still isn't in those screenings, but like that's certainly disclosed. I don't get it.
Things just started to open up. I moved to Austin in 2021, and yes, I did spend a few years. What's your STI status? When did you last get tested? Have you lived in?
Love that she, as the herpes positive person in the conversation, is asking the partner what their STI status is because it's a two-way street.
Anywhere else other than Austin in the Bay? That's good to hear. It sounds like it's quite common anyway. I've never had an STI before. I've spent too much time in relationships. I did get checked like a month ago, and it was all clear. How about you?
All clear. Love that language.
You guys are so desperate for vagina, man. All right,
Again, like, it's a great exchange, very mature, educated adults talking about sexual health, having a great convo before engaging in anything together. But then we got to bring it down to, like, guys are desperate for vagina.
Let's see the next one. Okay, so you know what the...
This is my turn now. My turn.
All right, let's see the next one. Okay, so you know what the average...
I knew it was me right away because I start so many of my videos being like, okay, so.
Which I've seen from the women in the comments and the women...
Wait, so before she even gets into my video, this is what she says. But she's already seen it because they just haven't put it on screen yet. So you guys might have seen this portion in my TikTok because this is what I showed. Because I only show up towards the last like 10 minutes of this video. And she watches my whole video, makes some comments on it, and then concludes like nothing.
Let's see the next one. Okay, so you know what the average I've seen from the women in the comments and the women on screen, I would say it's 4 to 6 is my...
So she has me on screen while she's saying this. So like I'm part of her 4 to 6 like rating, which I mentioned earlier. Like she was looking at different women in the comments and rating them. And these women were absolutely stunning.
Rating for the herpes women. I haven't really seen a super attractive woman. But the thing is, super attractive women can go on the internet and just get attention. They don't have the incentive to do a cause. They can just be hot.
So we got herpes, decided to go on the internet because we thought we could make money having herpes and discussing it on the internet because we're too mid to be on the internet and do other things like make matcha lattes. Got it.
I don't know if it's... I think it's more...
But like... Aren't you on the internet making a career out of something because you couldn't just be an influencer making matcha lattes either, and the career that you're making is off grifting and adopting the views of a community that despises women for a desperate bid for their affection and validation?
More common with mids, because mids I would say are sluttier. They got to put out more in order to compete with the hot women.
Wait, what? I just wish I could create like a mind map of all her arguments because they're so all over the place and convoluted. Women who are mid have to put out more because they're competing with the women who are hot who get more. I don't even want to like waste my brain cells going there.
So let me watch.
We're running out of time.
That I see with those of us who get herpes
is that people will just like completely take themselves out of the dating world. Two things actually: removing yourself from the dating scene, and the other one is just like deciding that you're going to settle for anyone who accepts your herpes status. I want you to think about like if you had herpes orally, which
I love that the video she chose of me is like an informative one. I like to think that like she secretly loves us. In actuality, she's sitting there being like, oh, this is so nice. This is making me feel warm inside. But how can I fuck it up for the audience that I'm supposed to fuck it up for? Because that's what I made my career of. How can I sound like the men that hate women that watch my content? What can I say about these women that can help me pass for one of them? For one of the hateful men that watch my content? I don't buy it. I thought I would be angry reacting to this video and like frustrated, but I just find it so... I can't wrap my like slutty mid little brain around it.
I know people who have it orally can struggle in their own ways, and literally most humans have that.
But yeah, what I wanted to say is like she chose such a nice video of mine to showcase where like I'm not proving any of her negative points actually, because I'm just like giving information. All the advocates she featured were actually saying great things. I'm like fully dressed in the videos. She can't call me slutty. I have way sluttier videos than that. I'm like giving information in the video. I have way more inflammatory videos than that, no pun intended. It's just like a nice, feel-good, informative video. So I feel like she's like enjoying herself watching it.
Cold sores or not, like I probably have it too. But when you have it orally, you wouldn't think about the
I'm so tired of people with herpes trying to convince everyone has it. It's really common, but speak for yourself. You know what I mean?
Didn't she say at the beginning that so many people have it and like 1 in 5 women have it, but now she's saying that we're trying to convince her that everybody has it?
Like, could you just some of us did not get it.
Do you know that, Pearl? Are you sure about that? Are you
sure about that?
I've never had a cold sore in my life.
This is my favorite part because lo and behold, her comment in the comment section, she doesn't know what asymptomatic means. Which again, if you're going to make a whole video about herpes, you better understand what asymptomatic means. It doesn't matter if you haven't had a cold sore in your life. It does not mean you don't have herpes. Not by a long shot.
Yeah. So don't, like, I hate when they said let's normalize it. Look, I think that some women, because some of the people I interviewed...
We don't need to normalize it because it is normal. Something that most humans have, by definition, is pretty much normal.
Like, one guy got it from his wife of 10 years. The other guy was at Manho. So I know that some people just take an L on this, right? I mean, one guy wore a condom, allegedly, that's what he said, and he still got it. And so am I going to say that I think some people can have...
How does that prove or disprove whether it's common or not? What do like anecdotal situations about how people got herpes have to do with whether it's common or whether it should be normalized? Like, she doesn't know how to make an argument.
Maybe they weren't that promiscuous. They just, trusted someone they shouldn't have. However,
like, doesn't that speak to the randomness of people getting it in all kinds of situations? This is what I'm saying. I feel like she's actually like a herpes girly who's like trying to shroud herself in an aura of misogynistic, woman hating, like slut shaming, blah, 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 to like appeal to her audience. But her like herpes girly who actually loves this keeps coming out and confusing her discourse.
Why would we want to make it more normal? Like, why would we? Nobody wants to do that.
Like, the way she's saying these things is like, I don't like him. No, I don't. Like, that's how she comes off. You know what I mean?
Make out with someone again, you can never date someone again, no one's gonna accept you, and you have to settle. And that's because we don't stigmatize it the same way or even understand it the same way, but we are just as much at risk of getting it genitally from people who have it orally. Unless you don't.
So I shared that in this video. I think I also talk about asymptomatic shedding.
Engage in oral, but like
she didn't register that, because she clearly doesn't, like, that flew over her head.
You have to remember that with herpes, you are not contagious most of the time. And I know that we think about and fear the whole viral shedding thing, but we only shed an estimated 5 to 20% of the year.
Viral shedding
varies from person to person. It depends on how often you get flare-ups and just your specific immune system. And shedding is the one that's hard to get our head around because we can't really control it and we don't necessarily know when we're shedding. That's why we disclose to partners. Because at any point in time, there could be a small risk. But that 80 to 95% of the time, you're not contagious and you're not shedding. So the chances that someone is going to get herpes from you, even if you're not taking any precautions, is still pretty low. Most people are getting in
I do think that's true based on the research I've done.
Oh, now you did some research. Now you did. I'm convincing you, eh?
But But the thing is, like, if you don't have it, you don't really want to get it. No,
She's confused right now.
I guess there's guys that still will do it, but I think the general sentiment of people that don't have it is that I do not want to risk getting it. I don't.
Nobody like goes out trying to get herpes. Like literally nobody. Like I mean, I'm sure somebody out there. There's people who whatever. It just happens. You're not even taking a greater risk with someone who has it. You're probably taking a greater risk with someone who doesn't know their status. Because most people have it and don't know. Someone who gets mild flare-ups and doesn't recognize them or who's asymptomatic, putting you at risk anyway. We're risking it no matter what with anybody.
Oh, I had this other friend. I get a lot of stories doing my job from different types of people. So
from different types? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Because I feel like it's people in your bubble.
I was kind enough to be broad. I never want my sources to be, doxed, leaked, whatever. But I have an older guy. He's been dating forever. And
it's funny because you don't want to dox or leak your sources, but you're happy to dox the women who have herpes that you needed to investigate to rate their appearance.
I don't know if he has it or not. I never straight up asked him. He told me a story of he took a girl on a date and she said, I like you, but I really have herpes. I like you, but I have herpes. That's what she said. And he said, well.
So another example of a woman being honest, despite her saying women are more likely to lie.
There's some precautions we could take. And I looked at him, I'm like, you did it? He's like,
yeah, because there's absolutely nothing wrong or weird about that, Pearl. It's being an adult. She did talk about like cold sores being a different thing and like normal or whatever. I'm sure she would date or connect with people who have or get cold sores. Would she worry about getting it genitally from them? And like the majority of people have cold sores or get cold sores or carry the virus that causes cold sores. It's herpes. People are dating and being intimate with people who have oral herpes, whether they know it or not, all the time. So what's so weird about it when it's like located somewhere else? Because then if someone has it like on a random body part, like their elbow or their back or their stomach, then what? Should you reject them too?
Well, I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. He was older. Maybe he had it too. I don't know. But it's like, damn.
Getting herpes, not knowing that they have it and not recognizing their symptoms when they get them.
Like the only explanation for someone agreeing to be with someone who has herpes is that they probably have it too, in her pearly worldview.
Because they can be so mild. You as a person who's aware of your status can do so much to protect your partner that someone who's unaware can't. Like avoiding activity when you feel a flare coming on, and sometimes you can feel you're shedding if you're getting like symptoms prior to a flare up, but the flare up just never comes. You can assume you're shedding then. Doing that.
She is engrossed in this video. She's barely paused it to say anything,
The risk a whole lot. Also just like being on antivirals daily, which some people are, reduces it greatly. Using protection, even though it's not foolproof because it depends on where you have it, but that still reduces the risk greatly.
I don't know if she's chewing gum or like it's like there's some frustration in her jaw that she's needing to like work through that I can
kiss
see.
And make out and date with people who get cold sores, even knowing that they get them. There's absolutely no reason that you should remove
So I made the oral herpes / cold sore argument
yourself
here.
from dating just because you have it below. You can do and enjoy everything in exactly the same way. And just because there's more of a stigma based on where you have it, that's only going to weed out.
I have to say she looks very at peace and relaxed watching my video. I think she's a fan, I think she's a herpes girly. Yeah, I wouldn't accept her into like the herpes baddie world, but I think there's a girl deep down in that pearly world and that pearly mind and that pearly heart that just wants to be with us.
Out uneducated, ignorant partners. But trust me when I tell you that most of them, offline and off TikTok troll culture, don't care. I have pulled the hottest people since getting herpes and since being single with it.
Like, my boyfriend is so hot, like, and amazing. It doesn't matter, but that's just something I've said before because, like, against, what people would like to believe. It didn't stop me from anything I wanted to do and experience, and I did it all with, like, openness and honesty. That's more than I can say for people in her world, 3 of whom she interviewed and 2 of which said that they lie. I feel like, judging by the fact that I'm 40 and she's 28, I've had a lot more fun in life having herpes and being sexually liberated and in touch with myself and my sexuality and free to explore whatever I want out of life as a woman than her like chained to this desk and podcast mic having to grift for like these men who hate women for like some kind of satisfaction. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, what? That's nasty.
So, like, that's all she had to say.
Hold the
Like, engrossed in my video for like a full 5 minutes, and that's all she could say.
honest people since getting herpes.
I
and
want to
since
watch
being
that
staying with
again.
It doesn't make a difference, but your energy and perspective around it will.
Yeah, what? That's nasty.
Like, I just feel like that was so fake. Girl, that was so fake. Like, I see you. I see you. You're dying to come out of your shell. I just feel like she, like, loves us. And she loves it. And I just feel like she wants to be a herpes girl in the herpes world.
Okay. Well, let me know what you guys' experience has been, if you guys have it or not. If you know anybody that has it, do they lie? Are they honest? What have you guys seen out there? Because that's where I get the most information is people.
I thought she had all the information. Like, I thought she already interviewed everybody, like, did a cross-section with, like, the 3 people that she's spoken to. She has a doc with, like, her stats and links. Why does she need more information?
That tell me their stories. So let me know in the comments, like the video on your way out, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.
Well, there you have it, folks. This is a W. No, it's an L no matter what to have her join our community. But, like, I think that she wishes she were a part of this community. I think that everything that she saw was actually, like, impressive to her and, like, comforting and inspiring. And I think that she had to, like, really dig deep to pull out the hatred that she's built a career around. And I just hope that she finds her way someday. Not my way. I honestly could see her, like, 20, 40 years from now coming out to be like, I spent my life and career grifting on the internet and I regret it, and here's why. Or, like, the whole thing is like a social experiment that she might reveal 20, 40 years from now, you know? Because I just, like, I don't buy it. Like, I expected to have a stronger reaction, but I don't buy it. But anyways, yeah, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this wild ride. I do, like I said, feel like I just can't I'm so far from some of those ideas and concepts that I can't even wrap my head around, like, exactly what they're trying to think or say. It's just so foreign to me. It's like an apple trying to understand an orange. And, like, if I ever actually had to sit down and have a conversation with someone like that, I think I would just, like, be laughing. Like, I don't think I could take it seriously, you know? And part of me thought that it wasn't worth my time responding to this at all, but it was honestly more funny than I expected because, like, it's just so outlandish. Of course, it's disgusting to rate women and, like, peddle these extremely misogynistic views, but she's so confused about those views. She keeps contradicting herself. I'm gonna call my boyfriend now because I told him I would call him when I'm done filming. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. Bye.